we go. Okay. So what does this start to do? Looking at this document, looking at some of these questions, what are some of the things that you're marking? What are you now starting to wonder that maybe you were not asking about before? Oh, I hope I'm sharing it right. That's not what I want to be sharing. Is it not going to let me do that? Let me try this. There we are. All right, that should be better. Do new questions arise? Or are there things in there that you're starting to get maybe a little bit more curious about? I hate the idea of just hooking you up to a leash and dragging you along like a new puppy and that just doesn't even want to walk. You know those new puppies, right? No?
Is the efficiency it talks about in terms of their actions or who they are as people?
That is a wonderful question. So he says what redeems it, and what is it? What is the it that needs redemption?
He's talking about how the Romans would have no chance of surviving in such a foreign environment, but that the sailors are saved from efficiency to devotion to efficiency.
Okay. There's some other stuff too, though, right? Page 7. Men enough to face the darkness. Think of a decent young citizen in a toga. Perhaps too much dice, coming out here in the train of some prefect. So why is it that the Roman is going to have a hard time doing what? What is the Roman struggling with? And here is, might be useful, so that second to last question. You probably don't know Dances with Wolves, and we did see that little bit of Disney's Jungle Book, but think of Lord of the Flies. Think of the boys in Lord of the Flies. And so what is it that the Romans will struggle with when they're here on the Thames in tribal, non-unified territory? What is it that they're going to struggle with?
Yeah, they're all going to try to seek their own power, I guess.
Not necessarily. They may. Some of them probably will, sure. Look in near the middle of that first paragraph on 7. Again, the young citizen in the toga comes out here to mend his fortunes, to try to make money. Then what happens? What happens to him? Josh? Was that a...
Oh, sorry, I was reading.
Oh, okay. I got excited there. Thought you...
It says that he would feel the savagery, the utter savagery that goes around him.
Right. And there's no initiation either into such mystery. So there's a mystery to that savagery. And when you're surrounded by that savagery, what? then happens to you. He has to live in the midst of the incomprehensible, which is also detestable. What does that mean? That's like our narrator in Shooting an Elephant. He has no idea. He struggles so much with what's going on in the place that he's at. It doesn't make any sense. Something that's incomprehensible just doesn't make any sense, which is also detestable. It makes us hate it. And it has a fascination too. What is it that has a fascination? What is the thing that's fascinating? Fascinating.
Would it just be like the different way of living?
Which is what specifically? It was identified earlier in the passage. Everything, Joseph Conrad does everything that he does for a reason. It's by design. And this is like one of those texts that I read this and I'm like, I could never be a writer. Never in a million years could I be that like well thought out. Everything connects. So what is the it? What is the antecedent for the it that is fascinating?
Would it be like the cold, the fog, the tempest, the disease, the exile, and the death?
Well, that's not so much fascinating. That would be some of the incomprehensibility and the detestation. What's to be detested? It has a fascination, too, that goes to work upon him. The fascination of the abomination. What's the abomination? Abominable!
The savagery.
It's the savagery. It's the savagery. You know, imagine the growing regrets, the longing to escape, the powerless disgust, the surrender, the hate. There's a fascination to the abomination. There's a fascination in the savagery. And that's what happens in the Lord of the Flies, to the boys. There's a fascination. A temptation. What saves us is efficiency and the devotion to efficiency. What keeps one from becoming savage is the devotion to efficiency. What is the thing that keeps you from punching a freshman in the face?
Other than just self-control.
Well, and part of self-control is, you know, the lessons that you've learned in efficiency. You are not savage. It would be inefficient to punch a freshman in the face. It would complicate the rest of your life or the remaining days that you have in this place. But you've been here so long, as Freslevin was there so long, that eventually, sometimes, you feel like you need to assert your self-respect. You know, your own sense of dignity. And so if a freshman bumps into you and you're just having that kind of day, and you might apologize and say, dude, I've been here for 4 years. Right? So, okay. What saves us is the devotion to efficiency. There's something inefficient to becoming savage. Efficiency is being civilized. So hopefully that helps. Does that help?
Yeah.
Yeah. What else? What else?
Is it wrong for me to believe that Conrad is like expressing his own views through Marlowe?
No, not at all. Marlowe is infamously identified as Joseph Conrad's alter ego. And so well, you don't know, maybe you know, Joseph Conrad went to the Congo and fell ill, and talks about some of those experiences, some of the things that he witnessed. I think we have some of his Congo diary in the very back. Yes, yeah, so we've got some of his Congo diary in the very back. Kept a diary during this period, the first notes in effect for Hardcover. Telling the story, it's published. What else? Other questions? Or other things that are raised by that document? And you probably didn't get through the whole thing. But. Or other questions that you have. That too. Noah?
So, I guess 4 from the bottom, where it talks about that gloom brooding over a crowded bed. Is that also the sort of natural tendency for savagery that it was talking about?
So, which part? So does the murder of the son somehow foreshadow the murder of Freslevin? Is Freslevin killed by that gloom brooding over a crowd of men? That part?
Yeah.
And so, ask your question again. What are you asking?
I'm asking, is the gloom, like the phrase gloom brooding over a crowd of men, is that referring to the savagery and like the natural tendency for violence for like things that you don't understand?
I think it can be, yes. Yes, absolutely. I think the savagery too, the label of savagery comes from our ignorance and lack of knowledge. And so that gloom brooding over a crowd of men, there's a variety of possibilities. I think we talked about this last time, correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the elements that is happening at the very beginning, and it's extremely ironic, and I think it's deliberate, that London represents the most civilized place on the planet. And Marlowe is there telling this story about what most of the world would identify as the least civilized place on the planet. But as Marlowe is telling this story just outside of the most civilized place on the planet, they are getting plunged into the dark. Quite literally. And so is that a metaphor for the rest of the story? In Marlowe, we have a character who is struggling to tell the story. And so if you had if we had like a prose prompt that asked you to address the entirety of this piece, so like what are the literary devices and techniques that the author uses to convey the complex relationship of Charlie Marlowe with his experience, you would point to, one of the things that you might point to would be the em dashes and ellipses as he tells the story. So we get the random statement at the bottom of page 5, and this also has been one of the dark places of the earth. That thought, it's not quite interrupted. The narrator has plenty of time to tell us, to contextualize who Marlowe is and what kind of story that he tells. That he tells the indirect and complex story on page 6. We did talk about that. Okay. Marlowe was not typical. He does not tell the typical story that a sailor tells. And additionally, his remark did not seem at all surprising. Just like Marlowe accepted in silence, no one took the trouble to grunt even, very possibly hoping that he's not going to continue. And presently he said, very slow. So as you try to tell the story of the experience that you had that was not quite, does not quite make sense for you, and you struggle to find the right words for the moment, it was, maybe not unlike, as my wife and I are walking on a trail after I bumped into my ex-girlfriend of 7 years while we were on our spring break, to tell my wife that I had seen her. Oh, by the way, that's her. It wasn't any of that. It was like trying to figure out, okay, how do I tell my wife? Why would I keep that a secret? And so there was a struggle, and we're just walking on the trail, and I'm like, lots of hesitations, very slow, not quite sure how to tell you this, but as we were wrapping up miniature golf, who should show up but my ex-fiancée and her family. And she was like, what, really? So, yeah, but I'm sorry, I couldn't. Lots of stumbling, pauses, very slow, sometimes very rushed. It's the way that we tell stories that we struggle with. So he said very slow. I was thinking of very old times, when the Romans first came here. 1900 years ago, the other day. Ellipses. Light came out of this river since You say nights? Yes, but it is like a running blaze on a plain, like a flash of lightning in the clouds. We live in the flicker. May it last as long as the old earth keeps rolling. But darkness was here yesterday. Imagine the feelings of the commander of a fine, what do you call him? So it's obviously conversational. You can tell that he is thinking through the telling of this story. He gets to the end of it. Narrator interrupts on page 7. He paused. Mind, he began again, lifting one arm from the elbow, the palm of the hand outward, so that with his legs folded before him, he had the pose of a Buddha, preaching in European clothes and without a lotus flower. Mind, so repeats himself, trying to find the right words. None of us would feel exactly like this. And then at the top of 8, after he said efficiency, the devotion to efficiency is what would prevent us from embracing the savagery, from being tempted to become savage, from surrendering to that temptation, the fascination of the abomination. He mentions the efficiency, but then changes quickly. But these chaps were not much account, really. They were no colonists. Their administration was merely a squeeze and nothing more, I suspect. They were conquerors. For that, you want only brute force. So he describes how the Romans behaved. But look at how it shifts. The very last sentence on page 7, the conquest of the earth, which mostly means the taking it away from those who have a different complexion or slightly flatter noses than ourselves, is not a pretty thing when you look into it too much. Even though he's already said that one thing that saves us is efficiency. But it gets ugly, and it gets ugly fast. And the story that he's about to tell is in a place where the people are of a different complexion and have slightly flatter noses than ourselves? Is he not aware of the story that he's about to tell? What redeems it is the idea only. An idea at the back of it, not a sentimental pretense, but an idea and an unselfish belief in the idea. What is the idea that redeems colonization? Imperialism. What's the idea that redeems it? You have an idea? Do you have an idea?
Wasn't one of the primary focuses to convert them to Christianity?
Which would be what? What's another name for that? Jamie, did you have an idea?
I did, and I don't remember how I had it worded in my head.
Okay, John?
Bringing enlightenment to the unenlightened.
Yeah, what have we read already that helps support the argument? Kristen, you see that? No? You whipped your head up, and I was like, "Oh, Tristan's got it." So there's certainly there are elements of it, but there's specific. What is the idea that redeems colonization? It goes along with that, I think, and it may have been. I don't know. That may have actually been one of your questions, or what your question was about Plato's Cave. It's like the modern version of Plato's Cave.
I like the idea of making them less savage.
Yes, but I mean, there's a specific phrase. An unpleasant one.
Civilized.
White man's burden. The idea is the white man's burden. That's what redeems it. That, we're doing good work at it. Oh, good job. Yeah, good job. Okay. And so, he says that what redeems it is the idea only, an idea at the back of it, not a sentimental pretense, but an idea and an unselfish belief in the idea, something you can set up and bow down before and offer a sacrifice to, and then ellipses again. Is he unsure about what it is that he's even saying? And I would guide you here at this moment then to previous agenda. Where do I need to go? I need to go here, maybe? Yes. In a previous agenda, I think it was 2 days ago, 2 class periods ago, Joseph Conrad has stated, he said these words. Where is it? Up here. There it is. I indicated that Joseph Conrad is on the record as expressing his own lifelong struggle between a desire he wants to believe in what he called a few very simple ideas, like the idea of fidelity. What redeems it is the idea, like the idea of fidelity, and his sometimes corrosive skepticism that no conviction, no belief, nothing that we believe to be true could withstand sustained critical scrutiny. In other words, nothing that we believe to be true, if we investigate it too much, can stand. It will not hold. And so is he already running into, is our narrator running into a problem with that? Is that why he broke off? Changes the subject entirely. I suppose you fellows remember I did once turn freshwater sailor for a bit. So again, it's like another random Marlowe thing that he brings up. So what's this going to be all about? Is it going to be about efficiency? Is it going to be about the idea, the redemption of the idea, or the other ugly stuff? Somebody asked me, and this was an after class kind of question, and don't do that. Ask the question in class. I'm not saying that this is anti-racist per se. There's racism in here for sure. We've got the N-word, we've got stereotypical representations of Native Africans. But there's something else that's going on too that is revolutionary for the time. This is akin to a whistleblower report without specifically naming names or places. He's very careful about that. He did sign a contract. And at one point he says that he signed something about not giving away any trade secrets. Don't worry, I'm not going to. Can't remember exactly where that was. And he doesn't. He never tells us where he goes. It could be any river in Africa. But I'm telling you right now, he goes to King Leopold's Congo, where we have the first genocide of the 20th century. Woo! Good job, King Leopold. First one. Way to get on the books, man. So, this is a problematic text. Never said it was, that's why I'm giving it to you. It's a problematic text. This is hard. And we're looking at somebody who's struggling to tell that story and figure it out. This is the first time that he's telling the story. Marlowe, maybe Joseph Conrad has told it before elsewhere, but Charlie Marlowe is with people that he trusts, who he knows will tolerate what he has to say and will give him the audience, unless they fall asleep. And maybe they do. Okay.
So, is Marlowe's whole story based on Conrad's visit to the Congo?
I believe a lot of it is,
Okay.
and like other reports of kind of what's coming out of there.
So then, would this almost be like a confessional sort of thing? Like,
I think
saw what I saw, I hated
there's
it.
there's possible reason to believe that, I think. Let me see here. And this is kind of part of our agenda here today too. Do you remember what the qualities are of the spiritual hero? A recollection of that? And if you've got your Chromebook called up and our agenda for today, it's within the Joseph Campbell. He says, the other kind is the spiritual hero. Learned or found a mode of experiencing the supernormal range of human spiritual life. Supernormal, learned or found mode of supernormal human experience. And come back and communicate it. In the same way that George Orwell does in Shooting an Elephant and a Hanging. I went out to Burma and learned that the native Burmese, well, they're human beings.
What?
What are we doing out there to these people? It's ruining us, it's destroying them. And so, yeah, I like that, that use of confessional. That's a great way to think about it. And it continues, the moral objective is that of saving a people or a person or saving an idea. So the moral objective, frequently for the spiritual hero is that of saving a people or a person or saving an idea. And so, Noah, your question was about the idea. What is the idea? Is he trying to save the idea of the white man's burden? Does that, just because the idea is not a good one, is that kind of what we have going on here? Is Marlowe our spiritual hero? So the objective, saving a person, people, saving a people, person, moving out of order, or an idea. Okay, that I think is part of our key. Spiritual hero. Okay. Did we talk about, and every class was a little bit different, did we talk in here about how Marlowe was characterized? How he was described? Do you have any recollection of that?
A little bit.
A little bit? So look at, and maybe this will jog your memory a little bit. Look at page 4 to begin. And keeping within the same thread, okay, of the spiritual hero. Marlowe is named, right? The only other character, like within the first 10 pages, who is named is who? And ultimately, within our first 27 pages, we have a total of 3 characters who've been named. The third one we have not met yet, and the second one is dead. What's that?
Mr. Kurtz.
Mr. Kurtz, okay. Marlowe is named. Mr. Kurtz is named. And then one more.
Breslov.
Freslevin. And Freslevin, we'll come back to page 3. Page 3, maybe it's 4. It's 4. Freslevin, we did look at this, I'm pretty sure. At the bottom of 10, was described 3 lines from the bottom as what? Supernatural. Supernatural being. Marlowe is named also. And so back on page 4, how's he described?
He resembles an idol.
He does, but a little bit more. Because we need some of those other pieces too. Sunken cheeks. What does that suggest? Sunken cheeks. He's not a model.
It's kind of like the idea of like the shell-shocked look, like
Oh,
I've
nice.
seen some bad
Sure.
things.
Yeah, okay, good. Sunken cheeks, yellow complexion. And so you put those two together, and what does that suggest to you about his current status? Yellow complexion.
He seems sick.
It's not
He's
well.
got jaundice.
Yep, exactly. Okay. Synonym, potential synonym for yellow to keep in mind. I think we hit this. Didn't we hit this last time? Right, I have a vague memory of you actually saying it. But I don't know, maybe it's a weird deja vu thing. I've had that a couple of times this past couple of weeks. Weird. I don't know. It's fancy. A fancy synonym for yellow. Gold. Okay. Sunken cheeks, yellow complexion. Straight back, static bounce back, arms dropped, palms of hands outwards, resembled an idol. Resembled an idol. Is he an idol? Now, that use of the words, so the words are very important. Resembled an idol. What kind of an idol? Yellow, golden? Is that a problem? And we're talking about the spiritual hero here. Hopefully all the letters show up. Breslevin is identified as a supernatural being by Marlowe. Sunken cheeks, yellow complexion, resembled an idol, golden idol, spiritual hero. Do we have a problem there? Within the Abrahamic faiths. What are the Hebrews warned about? Yeah.
Not worshiping other false gods.
Don't worship false gods, specifically the golden ones. Right? Okay? But, yeah. And then, in case we didn't get it before, what kind of idol does he look like? Page 7. Buddha. Is he the spiritual hero? Is he the spiritual hero of this text? And it goes on page 14. His aunt is on. I had been represented. That first full paragraph on the page, about a quarter of the way down, maybe a third. I had been represented to the wife of the high dignitary, and goodness knows to how many more people besides, and this is how other people are describing him, as an exceptional and gifted creature. Piece of good fortune for the company, like a rabbit's foot. A man you don't get hold of every day, one of a kind, unique, right? Outstanding in his class. So, yeah, exception. That covers that ground. But then he interrupts part of the conversation. Good heavens! And I was going to take charge of a 2-penny, halfpenny river steamboat with a penny whistle attached. They're holding me up as this kind of a person, but they're going to put me in charge of a piece of garbage? Well, what are you going to do? It appeared, however, I was also one of the workers with a capital, right? Okay? Oh, Don't ask me what that means. Workers with a capital, Something like an emissary of light. Wow. The torchbearer. Spelled that wrong. Sure, I tried to put the I in. Emissary of light. Something like a lower sort of apostle. So, how do people look at Charlie Marlowe? How's he being built? How's he being characterized for us? We can go back to Walker Percy and the Loss of the Creature. No, what were you going to say?
It's like he kind of like is symbolic of all religion, it feels. Like he's such a great person that every single religion can see him in their, or like see their religion in him.
Okay. Anything else? Anything about Marlowe? How he's characterized? How else would do we go about responding to this? Page 4 and then page 14. No.
Was there any, so like to kind of contrast this, his aunt says that you forget your children if the laborer is worthy of his hire. Is that kind of taking a shot at him because he's been given like this crappy boat?
Oh, no, because, so she talked, but prior to that, she talked about weaning those ignorant millions from their horrid ways. That's gonna be my job. Till upon my word, she made me quite uncomfortable. I'm like, I don't know. That's not. I'm there to make money. That's why I'm going. I ventured to hint that the company was run for profit. We don't know exactly what he says to her, but it may very well have been, no, I'm going for money. I wanted a job. This looks like an easy buck. That's why I'm going. To which she responds, you forget, dear Charlie, that the laborer is worthy of his hire, she said. You've been hired for a special purpose. You've got a special job here. You'll find, when you get down there, that maybe things are a little bit different from what you think they are. Oh, are they? Oh, are they? Top of page 15, how does Charlie Marlowe self-characterize? So the Google Meet shut down. I don't know where it is. Can you guys hear me? Have you been hearing me? Is anybody even there?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, now you can. How long was it out?
Like 5 minutes.
What's that, Sharon? I had you muted. Sorry.
About 5 minutes.
5 minutes, huh? Yeah, that's weird. I don't know where it went. It just disappeared. It was terrible. But I'm glad I discovered it. Yeah, throw something up in chat when you suddenly see a problem like that. So anyway, you've hopefully seen all my notes though, right? Talking about Mr. Kurtz and these issues regarding him. We've got another problem though with Mr. Kurtz now. Or not with Mr. Kurtz. Well, another problem overall. So let me call that up, and I've got to call it up in 2 different places now, which is weird. We've been talking about the presentation, the representation of Charlie Marlowe and Mr. Kurtz. And let's see here. What do I want? I think I want this. Oh, bummer. Am I sharing something now?
Yep.
Okay, good. Phew. Trying to do stuff. So now where's this? There it is. So this is something to look at. Okay. So Luke 7, kind of starting around verse 16, I think. They were all filled with awe and praised God. A great prophet has appeared among us. God has come to help his people. This news about Jesus spread throughout Judea and the surrounding country. John's disciples told him about all these things. Calling 2 of them, he sent them to the Lord. So John the Baptist sends 2 of his disciples to the Lord, to Jesus. Sent them to the Lord to ask, are you the one who is to come, or should we expect someone else? So think about how both Charlie Marlowe and Mr. Kurtz are being built up to be this iconic, important figure for the company. Are you the one? When the men came to Jesus, they said, John the Baptist sent us to you to ask, are you the one who is to come, or should we expect someone else? There's this concern. We don't want to fall for the false prophet or the false Messiah. We don't want to worship the wrong guy. Are you the right one? At that very time, Jesus cured many who had diseases, sicknesses, and evil spirits. Gave sight to many who were blind. How does Marlowe describe himself? How does Marlowe describe himself? And he hasn't even done anything. He's an imposter. He replied to the messengers, go back and report to John what you've seen and heard. The blind receive sight, the lame walk, those who have leprosy are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised. Marlowe says, I'm an imposter. I felt like an imposter. After John's messengers left, Jesus began to speak to the crowd about John. What did you go out into the wilderness to see? A reed swayed by the wind? If not, what did you go out to see? A man dressed in fine clothes? No, those who wear expensive clothes and indulge in luxury are in palaces. What did you go out to see? A prophet? Yes, I tell you, and more than a prophet. This is the one about whom it is written, I will send my messenger ahead of you who will prepare your way before you. Mr. Kurtz is the one who's out there first. Which one is which? Who's the important figure? Is it Charlie Marlowe? Is it Mr. Kurtz? Or is it neither one of them? Are we looking at false gods? So, I don't know if there's, we've got like 1 minute left. I apologize for the technical difficulties. I'm not sure what happened. Does anybody have like one more question that they need to answer?
What are they hoping for their one to do? What do they want from them?
Well, that's why we got to keep reading. I am asking you to read more for next time. And the challenge is to get up as close to 58 as you can. Obviously, I mean, we haven't even expanded beyond 27, but once we hit like these really important things, there's like one more angle that I want you to consider. We're just going to kind of speed through to the rest. You think about that Walker first here. When an individual is built up, can they live up to those standards? Or when a thing is built up, can it live up to those standards? All right. Yeah, send questions away. I don't know the extent to the level of our recording, and so if you want to check out what's been recorded, see if that covers some things differently, that might work. That might help. Okay, gang, everybody, be careful. Be safe. What a mess.
I don't know that I'll be here on Friday. I mean, I try to join it as soon as call if I'm not the one driving, but I'm a soccer.
Oh, okay. Okay. Have fun.
Thank you.
Where is it at?
It's at Grand Park in Indy.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, have a good time.